I'm Amaya, and I am going to be interviewing the senator.
All right.
And I'm Rob Rolison, and I am the senator here today. Super excited to be with my new friend to have a great discussion.
Where are you originally from?
Poughkeepsie. So I was born here, and I have always stayed here, and I am now 66 years old. And I was born in your neighborhood.
What was your childhood like?
It was good. I have a sister, my sister Ann, who is 4 years younger than me, and my mom and dad. And I went to local schools, and I would say, as far as my childhood was concerned, it was good. It was good. I had a lot of friends, and many of my friends who I went to kindergarten with, I still see. And so I'm happy about that.
I like staying with friends from like pre-K and kindergarten.
Yeah, because when you think about it, like your friends are your friends. They can be forever, and it's important that friends look out for friends. Like I have a friend right now, his name is Mike, and we were police officers together for 20 years, and he lives in the Carolinas, and he's battling cancer, and I think he's going to be okay. I spoke to him on Sunday. So we're always checking in, no matter where we live, if we live close or we live far, we always keep in touch with our friends.
What were your childhood dreams like?
Well, I always wanted to be a fireman or a police officer, and I was lucky because I did both. And that really was, my dreams were that. I wanted to drive a fire truck, and I did. And I wanted to be a police officer, and I did that too.
How would others describe you?
Oh, well, that's an interesting question. I would think, because it's very difficult, to talk about yourself, because I just don't. But I think generally, people have liked me, and people have trusted me, and becoming an elected official has been like an extension of my life. And I think what I would like to be known as someone who is decent, honest, and caring.
What changes would you like to see in your community?
I would like to see more people involved in helping my community. I would like to see more people helping all the communities in which they live in. When I go around the community, I usually say lots of things, but I always sort of end with, can you imagine a world where if every single person did one thing for somebody else, how much better the community would be or this world would be?
Yeah.
And that's just how I've always looked at life. I've always wanted to do for others, because as we're getting back to what we were originally talking about, having a good childhood, that's not always the case for everybody. And so I think we have a responsibility as young people, and I know you're doing it, and older people, I know I'm doing it, is caring and helping other people.
Yeah. What changes would you like to see in schools today?
Well, I think, schools, well, we know this, and you know this, because we're going to be going into 7th grade, and I remember when I went into 7th grade. Schools are very important. Schools play a larger role today in the lives of a community of students and families than they did when I was growing up. There are more challenges in the world than there were, I think, when I was growing up. And schools are the place where the kids are. Schools are much bigger than just a building. They are a community, they are a place of help, they're a place of safety. And so having the ability to have a school building be so much more. Here in the city of Poughkeepsie, they're embracing the community schools model, which means that the school becomes an extension of the community. It's not just necessarily a 7 to 3 or an 8 to 4 or a 9 to 5 building. They can be places that can serve the community all day long. So I think schools, obviously they're critical, but even more so now, because the world is changing, it's more challenging, and we need to do more for others.
Yeah, that's a good response to think.
Thank you.
Name some of your role models that you looked up to, and why did you look up to them?
Well, I looked up to my mom and my dad. My mom, because she was the sweetest, most caring individual that I knew growing up. She protected me and my sister because my dad was a lawyer, a fireman, and then, he loved the firehouse. Just like I joined the firehouse after I turned 18. He was already a fireman. So, but my dad was a state senator just like me.
Oh, that's nice.
From 1967 to 1990. He served in Albany. And so my mom kind of ran the show. My dad was my role model when it came to be a community servant. And I found out more about my dad after he retired from the Senate, and I was still a police officer in the town of Poughkeepsie, and I would run into people saying, "Do you know that your father helped me? Do you know that your father did this or your father did that?" And then when he passed away, I became so involved in, obviously his passing was a big shock to the community because it was sudden, but all the things about my dad came out. And now, in serving in Albany, there are still people in Albany who must have been teenagers when my dad was there, who still work there, and they tell me these wonderful stories about my dad.
It's nice to hear stories about like a family member, like from a while ago.
It is. It really is, and it gives me the strength to do my job and to live up to, I think, the standards of which my father operated way back when. Because being an elected official, while the challenges may be different and the politics could be different and the politics is worse than it ever was, but you're still supposed to be doing the right thing for people, and that's what he did. So those were role models. And as you get older, you think about other people that are role models, like my sister, who works with Afghan female veterans who were refugees who came to this country. And she lives in Virginia, and she has a group of females, soldiers, who are now out of the Afghan army, who left their families behind to come to America, and she works with them. She's a role model.
That's nice. What was your educational experience like growing up?
I was the worst student ever. I didn't take it seriously at all. I can tell you that when I walked out of high school in 1976, the last day of school, I thought I was coming back because I didn't think I passed to graduate. And when I got the report card in the mail, pretty quickly after last day of school, I saw that I graduated, and I saw that I got a 65 in geometry, which I know my teacher helped me out. And I'll never forget that. His name was Dean Bushy. He never told me that, but I kind of figured it because I know that I bombed the final, but I worked really hard at it. And I think he said, "Hey, you deserve to move on." And I did. And I went to college for a few years, and then I left college to become a police officer. And then I went back to college when I turned 60. So that was 6 years ago, or maybe it was 58. I went back to Marist to finish my degree, which I haven't finished yet. Maybe someday I will. But, education comes in lots of forms. It comes in forms of your middle school career, your high school career, if you go on to college, but you're always being educated by someone or something. I'm being educated right now by you. You're asking me these questions. That's education, so I appreciate that.
If you could pass on one thing to kids, what would you like to pass on?
Can I have more than one? Or does it have to be one?
It could be two.
It could be two. Never forget your friends, and try your best to contribute to the community in which you live. To volunteer, to help others. This is still the second answer. It's got big, but it's still the second answer. To really just be involved. To be involved, to take care of people.
What are the biggest problems affecting our community?
Well, I mean, it can be specific to different communities, but I think, generally, a lot of people need help in a variety of different ways. And we saw during the pandemic, when COVID was overtaking our communities, how people got together to help one another and got through that. with a lot of loss and a lot of emotional pain and suffering. But I think that there's still so many folks that need help. And that's really where I'm concentrating on, I think, for the most part. In the work that I do in Albany and the work I did as mayor was to help others and to keep community strong. And the world that we live in is very divisive. It can be downright nasty. People being nasty to one another that just shouldn't be. We have much, like you and I, we're now friends for life, right? We know that. We have more in common than we have not in common. And we're talking to one another, we're not yelling at each other. And so when you communicate like we're communicating today, the community becomes stronger.
What do you do for a living as a senator?
I drive around everywhere. I work at this job 7 days a week, and I help constituents, I help people. I'm going to Albany tomorrow, the state capitol, to meet with 2 individuals. Then I'll be back down here. And so my job is to make connections. Because of my background as a fireman, as a cop, as a county legislator, as a mayor, and now as a senator, I know all kinds of people. I met them because I've been in this community my whole life. So I look at my job as like a connecting person. So if you called me up and you said, hey Rob, I got a friend that's got this issue. Can you help that person? And I could say, yes, because I can call Brian at Family Services. I can get a hold of the track program, and maybe we can get that young man or that young lady involved in that group, like you're involved, right? Because what you're doing here is not only helping yourself, but it's helping everyone. And so I think that's really my responsibility has always been to be like the connector guy, and also go to Albany and advocate for things that are important to this community and this state. And it's different than being a mayor. The principles are the same. My drive is the same, but it's just different as far as working within government. That's a little complicated at the end, but generally it's being helpful.
If you could change one thing about your life, what would it be?
Well, I'm gonna say this because this is something we're only on the earth for a certain amount of time, right? And there's going to be a point in time where I'm going to feel that I did not do enough, say like with my family. That I've overcommitted myself sometimes to always being there for other people. And I'm kind of being down on myself when I say this, but maybe I could have done more for my wife, for my son, for my sister, for my granddaughter, for my friends and my neighbors, because I was always doing other things all the time. And I beat myself up a little bit about that. But I think by and large, other than saying I should have saved more money or I should have done this, I should have bought a different car or a different truck, which is just stupid, right? It really is just about reflection of maybe I could have been around more. There's a sacrifice to being an elected official if you do it the right way.
Are there any needs you have that you need help with?
Yeah, a lot. I think a lot of folks, and I know that you're not necessarily in this group, really don't sometimes understand all of the things that are going on in the community and how to make it better. A lot of folks have turned off because of the things that are happening within our political system, our government system. There's a lot of angst, a lot of hurtful things being said. We're not working together like we should be. I'm trying to always. So I think that's one of the challenges that people need to really, you got to get involved. Just don't put your head in the sand. I have friends that I am close with. Sometimes I'm surprised that they don't really know what's going on like I do. Yeah, I know, frustrating, right? But a lot of people have just gotten to the point where you know what? I can't deal with it. So I'm just going to do my thing, which is cool. I'll worry about my family, or I'll do my thing wherever I live and worry about my job, or be retired and go play golf. I wish I had that opportunity someday. Maybe I will. I used to play golf, but I haven't played golf in 2 years. So those are some of the challenges in front of us.
Is there anything in particular that helped you through the hard times?
my friends, my family, sitting here with you today. You know, it makes me feel good about the world coming behind me. Yeah. You know, having friends like my friend who is right over there, Stacy Bottoms, who I got to know, who I dearly, you know, thank for so many things, that the strength that, you know, that we get. She worked for me. My wife, you know, my son, my granddaughter, my daughter-in-law, my sister, you know, all of our friends, that when we get together, makes me feel good, gives me strength to get up in the morning and go back out there and do it.
What type of music do you like?
I'm a Motown guy. I love all kinds of music, but definitely Motown is my go-to on all levels. Ever heard of James Brown? So I saw James Brown in like 1982, 83 at the Chance. I thought that was one of the best shows I ever saw. Then I saw Luther Vandross at the Garden. You know, these are old school Motown. Now you got new school Motown, but you know, Marvin Gaye. I mean, I could go right on down the list of all the folks that I love to listen to.
Were there any specific sports you did growing up?
I was a track person, a runner, cross country, half miler. I was no good, really, but I did it because I enjoyed it. I love the team sport, but I love football. I'm a big football fan. But those are the sports I did in school: track and cross country.
Yeah, I like doing sports because like it keeps you like something to do like in your free time.
And it's healthy.
Name anything you challenged with while growing up.
Yeah. So you know how you go to school and it's your first day, and the teacher goes around the room and says, "Rob Rolison," you know, and you raise your hand, and everybody used to go, "His father's the senator." Drove me crazy. And believe me, you know, growing up with your dad in that kind of a position, you know, people would, you know, it was like, sometimes I felt, you know, that was like overshadowed maybe like who I was, even though maybe that's not, let's rephrase that. I always knew who I was, but I think that always was, and my dad never, ever said to me, "You got to be this way or that way." He just wanted me to do good in school. That was it. Because my sister was an angel and an honor student. My dad would come up the stairs to my room with the report card and say, "We've had this conversation before." And that was all the time. So being a better student obviously would have been helpful, but I think things turned out okay. I'm hanging out with you, right? I mean, I don't think it's much better than that.
Is there anything you believe helped you throughout school?
Help me?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I had obviously supportive mom and dad, especially my mom, and teachers that, you know, cared about me. But again, I mean, I'm not afraid to admit I was a screwball in school. Not so much in grade school, but when I got into high school and junior high, and you know, I was kind of a punk. And so again, I was glad that I graduated, and things, I guess, have turned out okay.
Are kids different today than how you were in school?
I think kids are kids, right? But the world that kids are exposed to today is not the world that I was exposed to. You know, we didn't have phones, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have social media. You know, like when I was not in school, I was playing football, playing softball, riding my bike. You know, my mother would say to me, "Be home for dinner at 6 o'clock." I'd be going all day. That's just how it was. Now, that's not the case. I mean, I don't think I even called my mom from a payphone all that often to say I'm on my way. It was just a different time. When we're talking, when I grew up, you know, it was the 60s and the 70s, and there wasn't all the electronics. I mean, there weren't games. I remember, I think the first thing that came out, like, was a game thing, was called Atari. And, you know, it was like a tennis ball going back and forth or something like that. Not like the stuff that's going on, you know, with today's technology. So it was a different time.
What made you, like, what is your most favorite thing about being a senator?
Things like today. Absolutely, bar none. Being with individuals, helping people. Do a lot of that, advocating for individuals with all kinds of challenges within their lives. That's where, in the committees that I serve on, that's where I stay in my lane. But when I have the opportunity to be, especially with young individuals, and like what I'm doing right now, like my day is set. I'm good, even though I got more things I got to do. But this has been just a great moment for me because it makes me feel good.
If you weren't a senator today, would you still be a fireman or a police officer?
Well, probably not, only because I started on the job in '82. I did 26 years. I would have retired out before this time. I probably still would be active within the firehouse for sure, to the extent that I could be, because being a volunteer firefighter today is much more challenging with training and time commitments than it was when I was there. But I love the firehouses. I still go to firehouses. I was at National Night Out last night in the city of Newburgh, where the police department comes into the community, all kinds of organizations. The city of Poughkeepsie's having theirs is coming up, I think, in a week or so. So I'd be doing something if I wasn't doing this, because I got to keep moving and grooving. It's tough to stop.
That was the last question I had.
That was it?
Yeah.
Well,
It was fun asking questions though, and I
It was-
liked your responses.
well, thank you, and it was fun answering those questions because they're very well thought of. And I certainly would love the opportunity to do this again.
Good job, you guys.
Good job. Thank you.
Awesome.